Aw, hell yeah. We taking the time machine all the way back to 2013. Do y'all remember where y'all were in 2013? My boy Ash Ketchum first set foot into the Kalos region. Elsa taught the whole world how to let it go. And little elementary school me couldn't wait to get in front of the TV to watch the Cartoon Network series Grojband. Grojband was a Canadian animated series created by Todd Kaufman and Mark Thornton. I watched nearly every episode as it aired and still remember looking up fan art on the old family computer and listening to the whole soundtrack on YouTube. It has always been a goal for me to go back to the series after all this time because the fan base is still really strong, and every once in a while certain songs would play in my head out of nowhere. So, if you are unfamiliar, Grojband follows 4 kids who play in a band in their garage. God damn, I'm so good at this recap stuff. You see me? Every episode, the band's frontman, Corey, comes up with an idea for the band's next gig, each one more bigger and extravagant than the last, designed to break them into mainstream success. His plans often clash with his evil older sister, Trina, a controlling and jealous and selfish teenage girl whose only goal in life is to impress her crush, Nick Mallory. While the band is great at playing their instruments, none of them can write song lyrics. This is where Trina comes in, because whenever she enters into a strong teenage emotional state, whether rage, joy, sadness, she writes down her feelings in her diary, and apparently, her writing is just so good, it serves as the basis for Grojband's lyrics, as they essentially use each entry as inspiration. Each episode pretty much follows the same formula, and each episode is extremely predictable. So in this way, rewatching this series reminded me a lot of one of my other favorite series, Phineas and Ferb. Now, with this point, I am not claiming that this show is a direct copy or a clone or anything like that, because Grojband still has its own sense of humor, and its band and music angle still keeps the concept fresh. I bring up this comparison to highlight how both series have their own formula that they follow each episode. There are also some other smaller details, such as each episode featuring a musical segment, the central conflict being a clash between a bright-eyed younger brother and their lovesick and self-absorbed older sister. Candace and Trina really have a lot in common aesthetically, with both having this sidekick that helps them to execute their plans, and they both have crushes on the local cool guy next door. But again, these are just small details that I noticed. The animation and art style for Grojband is very distinct. Just by looking at it, you can probably tell that it was made by the same teams that worked on some other Canadian cartoons like Total Drama Island. While the show can sometimes look very stiff, a lot of the humor comes across extremely well through the show's use of really expressive and loose animation. And when the show needs to, it can look extremely smooth, especially for its performance scenes. Also, the voice cast here too do an amazing job. They can really sell punchlines just through their line deliveries. It was also just an added bonus for me because I'm a really big Beyblade Metal Saga fan. I got to notice a lot of similar voice actors coming into the show from that other series.
There's only one thing Trina loves as much as Nick Mallory. You know me. I was just out patrolling the woods anyway.
Nick, for sure, will love the VIP ticket. Great idea, Trina. So boring. That wasn't any fun at all. Everyone else got way better battles.
Some limo hottie drove by and threw a whole bunch at me. Need some?
You're still getting on my nerves, even when it's over!
Grojband's style of comedy was another highlight for me. This show is very self-referential, as the characters constantly break the fourth wall. They play around with cutaway gags and even talk to the audience.
What a cliffhanger!
Cliffhanger indeed.
No, you definitely said something to that camera over there. See, you think you Deadpool.
With this show being on Cartoon Network, there's also a lot of gross out jokes, farts, barf, and all that. And while the show's attempt at humor didn't always land with me, I have to still give the series its credit. The show is a lot funnier than I remember. Like, a lot of these gags and lines I've been saying all my life and just completely forgot where it came from.
Hey, Nick, look at me for no reason. Thanks.
This cat is the greatest!
Oh, wow, a double rainbow.
Meh.
He's right. You should have been a triple rainbow.
Even with each episode following the same format, the show centers its stories around common stereotypes and groups that we've all pretty much interacted with in real life. To get jokes off about hipsters, nerds, old ladies, babies, politicians, and vegans. Even when the show isn't grounded in our reality, this show can really go out there, incorporating a lot of sci-fi elements like time travel, aliens, monsters, and genies. The show is very comfortable in being an episodic and self-contained 11-minute riff. Only a few double-length 22-minute episodes thrown in every once in a while. This series has a comedy-first mentality, where the plot and character development and character arcs really come secondary. As long as it gets you to laugh, that's its main priority. And there's really nothing wrong with having that in mind. But I don't know, I just think that there's so many opportunities that the show could use to expand on its continuity and plot points set by other episodes. For example, episode 22, Ahead of Our Own Tune, the band travels 1 year into the future, and then just don't travel back to the original timeline. What happened to the original timeline? What has changed in the world since the time skip? The show doesn't really dive into it and doesn't really want to. Again, there is nothing wrong with the show leaning towards episodic storytelling, because even in this format, episodes still end up aging way better than I thought they would. For example, episode 11's Helmet. In this episode, Corey finds out that his voice is cracking, and in order to perform and sing their songs, the band scientist, Kin, creates a helmet ingrained with artificial intelligence to help Corey find the perfect singing voice. It later, of course, gains sentience and aims to make everything perfect that it deems to have imperfections. The band later fight back against the helmet, as art and expression isn't about finding perfection, but it's to fully embrace who you are, flaws and all. Which, I don't know, just really ahead of its time and just really cool to see that the show from 2013 was still able to articulate the importance of human art above artificially created products. There's also an episode where the whole town gets infected with chicken pox and it causes this like massive outbreak and quarantine, but like, I'm not gonna lie, at the 2020 gang, I ain't laughing no more.
Not this.
I want to talk about some of the other characters in the series. Corey is our lead, and he's extremely naive and energetic guitar player. He's responsible for coming up with the band's next gig ideas, and he's also responsible for coming up with the plans needed to get his older sister to write in her diary. He can be extremely bash and has a tendency to act before he thinks, often pushing his band into gigs that they never really asked to be in, even pushing them into an elevator to hell. But it all comes from his confidence and faith in his friends in the first place. He loves his band more than anything else in the world, and that confidence in his friends gives them the motivation to get on any stage and to give each performance their best. And for that, he's a very effective leader. I especially remember loving his character design a lot when I was younger. Just by looking at him, you can tell his cool and confident personality due to that laid-back stance and half-open eyes. The key to an effective character design is if you can tell something meaningful about a character just by looking at them. And Corey's a prime example of that. Lainey works as the band's second in command and bass player. While Corey's head is often in the clouds coming up with the band's next gig, Lainey brings them back to reality, reminding the team of the obstacles ahead of them. She's kind of the mom in the group and the most protective over her friends. She can sometimes look like a wet blanket, but the show gives her several scenes where she expresses how much she loves being in her band with her best friends. She's also a goth girl who outright rejects traditional femininity and is much more comfortable in her tomboy personality. In this way, she reminds me a lot of Spinelli from the series Recess, as they both have this tough exterior but definitely have a soft side internally. She also has a crush on Corey, but it doesn't really have any meaningful development besides a kiss in the second to last episode of the series. It doesn't really mean anything afterwards. There's also this running gag where other characters like constantly misgender her, which, I don't know. At this big age, it's not that funny anymore, I'm gonna just be real.
There's something wrong with mine.
Nope. Spinning image.
So accurate.
Yeah, I gotta be honest.
Why would you say something like that?
Kin and Kon are two Japanese twins who serve as the band's piano and drum player. If Corey creates the idea and Lainey's quality control, then Kin and Kon are the ones to execute the idea. Kin is the brains of the group, as he's responsible for creating the inventions the cast need for each episode. And Kon, he has fart jokes. I'm gonna be real, I'm not crazy about Kin and Kon, but they're the only members who are knowledgeable about rock lore, which essentially serves as exposition during the show's first act. As individual characters, I don't really have much to say, but as a unit, these four still serve as a pretty entertaining group to follow. Corey's older sister Trina is just cartoonishly evil and vain. She goes out of her way to treat everyone around her horribly. She is selfish, egotistical, and the show is not even interested in redeeming her or showing any other sides of her personality. The show makes it very clear that she's the villain and we should never root for her. Even earlier when I mentioned the Candace comparison, that still feels very off in my mind, because although Candace might look like the greatest snitch in cartoon history, it all comes from a loving place, as the show makes sure that we understand that deep down, Candace cares about her brothers and their safety. This same thing cannot be said about Trina. She is just evil, and watching her plans fall right on her face gives the audience a sense of catharsis that cannot be replicated by any other character in the series. I especially want to highlight the performance of her voice actress, Allison Court, because she absolutely nails that teenage attitude with this ruthlessly evil nature. She does an amazing job.
At last, I'm totes gonna get my first date with hunky Nick Mallory. Don't forget your purse.
On this rewatch, I really wanted to love Mina, because I have a tendency to love the really sweet characters in shows like this, and Mina pretty much fits that bill perfectly. She's extremely nice to everyone, and she's super likable, but she's also Trina's sidekick. She worships the ground that Trina walks on and answers to her every command. I didn't even know this part, but Mina isn't even her real name. It's Bernadette. Trina forced her to legally change her name so that both of their names rhyme. She is constantly abused, subjugated, and manipulated by Trina, all because she dreams of one day Trina seeing Mina as an equal, as an actual friend. I don't know. It just gets really hard to watch at times because Mina is just way too sweet and doesn't deserve the treatment that Trina puts her under. The whole series, I was just begging for her to get up. She has a very satisfying moment in the final episode where she just fully crashes out on Trina after all that she's been through, and it's great to watch, but to do all this in the last episode, it's too little too late. The last really important character in the series is Trina's crush, Nick Mallory. Nick is that generically cool guy trope that cartoons love to use. He's pretty much perfect in every way and has no flaws. But he might be the funniest character to me, mainly because of his voice. The voice actor, Graham Cornice, absolutely bodies that laid-back delivery, and this running gag of him speaking about himself in the third person still is funny to me after every episode.
Nick doesn't dig abominations. Dibs on your corn dog, though.
I guess in this way, the humor of Nick Mallory reminds me a lot of Uncle Bobby from the Proud Family, where it's not really about what the character is saying, the humor comes from the way that the characters say it. Despite being the object of Trina's desires, he's never fully antagonistic and shows no sign of liking Trina back. He's just Nick Mallory, and honestly, I ain't mad at it.
I'm Nick Mallory.
There's a plethora of other reoccurring characters like Mayor Mello, who is this silly mayor who just constantly gets wrapped up in the Grojband schemes. The Newmans, a play on this gender swap antagonistic trope that are constantly butting heads with the band. The news reporters, Buzz Newsworthy and Chance Happening, who hate each other so much and it's really funny to watch them go back and forth. And Grojband's groupies, Kate and Allie, who just glaze Grojband more than Michael Jackson fans when he does damn near anything.
The greatest. Like, who thinks to start like this, though?
One of the coolest things about the series is that you get a whole song in each episode. The band pays tribute to a whole bunch of musical genres, from rock to hip-hop to soul to electronic. Now, none of these songs are going to win Grammys or anything, but I do love a lot of songs from the series. Please Come Back, B.O. Away, Go Away, Rusty Eyes, and One More Memory of You are just some of my favorite songs from the show. You should give them a listen next time your friends give you the aux cord, then get banned from playing any other song ever again. Like me! I think my favorite episode of the series is episode 15, Schoolhouse Rock. In this episode, the band put on their best FNAF cosplays and end up being mistaken for actual bears and placed in the zoo. The whole episode is the gang trying to break out. I don't know what it is about this episode, but its comedic timing and pacing is just perfect. The character expressions are hilarious, and Nick Mallory's voice actor gives the most emotional line read of the entire series here.
Hold it right there, Bear. You were afraid? Nick Mallory would do anything to help innocent bears.
You know, the characters are, I don't know, eating fish booty.
You sick freak!
And there's so many background gags that make me laugh every time I watch. I don't know. I think after finishing the series, I didn't fall in love with the show like I thought I was going to. Now, that doesn't mean that I thought the show was bad or anything, because it definitely isn't. But this video isn't me trying to say that Grojband is this hidden masterpiece. I think this formulaic nature makes some episodes pretty forgettable and unmemorable. A lot of that gross out humor just no longer lands for me, and these characters are just too flat and one-dimensional for them to leave a lasting impression. Now, I can't say that this is a show that I'll find myself watching over and over again in the future, but it doesn't have to be. Not every show or film that we watched growing up is going to mean the same to us years later. And while yes, there is a ton of movies and films out there that connect with audiences of all kinds regardless of age, and those series and those media deserve to be celebrated, it's completely fine to have series and movies that served us for a particular time period. Media that makes us laugh like it did several years ago, or reminds us of that state of mind, the feelings, the emotions that we were experiencing when we first watched it. Grojband is a series that gave me so much joy as an elementary school kid, and at times still gives me that same amount of happiness as a grown adult. It perfectly captures the freedom and fun that comes with doing the thing that you love with the people you love. And for that, I'm extremely grateful for what it added to my childhood. But I'd be lying if I didn't find at least one meaningful takeaway after watching this whole series again. One of the most important details of the series is the fact that the band cannot write song lyrics without Trina's diary, as the diary serves as the base for the emotion that the song wants to convey to the listener. It all comes from an authentic place in that perspective. These are Trina's real thoughts, her real feelings, and the only reason why the songs end up as catchy as they are is because of that. I don't know, it just reminded me to always incorporate parts of yourself in any amount of art or work that you put out. Don't be afraid to create stories or moments based on the life that you've experienced. Create art that reflects your own world, because when we do that, we have the opportunity to create connections with someone who might have experienced something similar, as art is a great way to connect people from all different walks of life through moments that we all might have in common, whether it's falling in love, having annoying siblings, or just enjoying spending time with your loved ones. Art is a form of self-expression, so never fear leaning into the parts of yourself that creating art helps to nurture. And it doesn't matter if anyone else understands it or respects it, it's a reflection of you, your lived experience, your hard work, and what you wanted to say. And if you executed that idea to the best of your ability, then you're doing exactly what every artist is supposed to do. And surprisingly, this Canadian cartoon helped me to realize that. It's funny. Those last couple lines will make for some great song lyrics. What do you think?
Thanks for coming out, everyone!